everybody. It's the NHL Pearl of Wisdom Show, and we're back live for Friday. It's Friday.
Woo!
Woo! Loving it. Beautiful here in Edmonton. It's supposed to rain tomorrow, unfortunately, but
Oh,
yeah, right
right on
on
the
the weekend,
weekend.
but that's okay. We're going to go out and do some walking and stuff tonight, some hiking this afternoon, and we'll hunker down to some hockey tomorrow and this evening.
Ooh.
Great games going to be
Mm-hmm.
going on. This is going to be a
Mm-hmm.
very interesting weekend. We were into talking about Giordano and all of that before. We'll get back to that. Let's get right into the games that are coming up this weekend and
Mm-hmm.
last night as well, since this is the first thing on my title, and then we'll switch the title up after that. Okay, so um, last night, what? I'll just let you fly with it. What did you think about the game last night?
A lot of people were expecting it to be a brawl, and it wasn't. It was far from
Yeah,
being a brawl. It was, how we were talking about checkers last night. Well, John Cooper definitely made that checkmate last night, because he really did a good job of just playing a good defensive system after getting a couple goal or after getting that first goal. And Vasilevsky played huge because in that first period, it was pretty even between the Islanders and the Tampa Bay Lightning, I would say. And then around the second half of that second period, it seemed like the Islanders were just absolutely popping off, trying to generate as much opportunities as they were. Cernak, I don't know what he was doing, trying to circle it back to his goalie
yeah,
and Vasilevsky putting it in his
exactly.
own net. But after that, the entire game, I felt like the Islanders almost could have won that game. They almost could have came back, but they couldn't get any offense going for themselves. Vasilevsky was making huge saves left and right. Barzal was out there for like the last 3 minutes, I think, playing a lot of minutes near the end of the game, but was not able to produce anything. And mostly, every time the Islanders tried to break it in, especially near that end of the game, it just seemed like they trapped him up in near the neutral zone, almost what the Islanders did in game one between the Islanders and the
Yeah,
Lightning.
yeah, yeah. That's true. Um, Tampa Bay just found their the Tampa Bay has just kind of found the groove of where the Islanders are weak. That's really what it is, and
Mm-hmm.
they found it using their own game too, because they're still making the long passes, all of those sort of things like that.
Yeah.
Pushing the Islanders into play. They're not afraid of the Islanders' physicality right now. They're taking them
Yep.
on in every step of the way. Um, I think really the Islanders got to have to consider playing a tighter trap system against Tampa Bay. It's their 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 strong suit is their defense. They have a great goaltender
Yeah.
there. I don't recommend I mean unfortunately I don't want to get outshot every game. That's the difficult thing, like what Dallas did to make it to the finals last year. But um,
Mm-hmm.
playing a middle trap in the neutral zone and basically putting one man in for a bit until they can find a leak in that defense. I think that's probably the best way
Yeah.
to go. The thing is, Tampa Bay is doing, and what the Islanders are known for, and probably best at, is Tampa Bay's being really patient. They're not over. They're not trying to push the envelope as trying to make plays that aren't there, and all of those sort of things like that. They're
Mm-hmm.
also Tampa Bay is trying to bring as many men over to to the right side and playing almost like having a left winger play high, and they're willing to take that shot
Mm-hmm.
from the outside on the left side to make Varlamov move across. And I think the New York Islanders have to adjust to that. They got to keep one of their wingers further out of the play to be able to watch that guy
Mm-hmm.
because there's a guy open there all the time.
Yeah, they are really. I like what Tampa Bay is doing. They're really making the goaltenders work, and even Vasilevsky's been working a lot too. But Semyon Varlamov has been having to work the hardest. He took a big bump. when Pellick dumbly pushed Point into his own goalie. Not in this game, but in game two there. Um, and they got to do a better job, tight defensively, I think. When I was seeing Dobson out there sometimes, I know Implicit always talks about how good Dobson is, but every time I watch him, his defensive liabilities show immensely. And especially showing what he did with the puck near the end of the game. I don't exactly know what he was doing. He was like trying to regroup, but then he was gonna go behind the net and then stopped and then went when he had tons of time to kind of just sit there and stand there and kind of wait for an open guy instead of trying to go behind the net when it's the dying seconds left of the game. I don't care what you're doing. When it's the dying seconds of the game, you gotta just take that puck and go with it. Go with it. Don't wait. Because if you're a goal behind, especially in a big playoff game like this, you got to just go after it and take after it. But overall, Dobson's game offensively is not terrible. I think he needs to improve a little bit defensively. And man, they're playing Andy Green a lot. Do you like that they're playing Andy Green a lot, or is it just like I'm wishy-washy on Green at some
Well,
moments of time? Like I don't
well,
think he's great,
we both
but
know
he's
that
not
on
bad.
paper they're they're nowhere near the better team, right? So
Oh
I
yeah,
mean, they don't really have somebody that they can play instead of Green. I think is really the problem. They
no.
just don't have anybody there to take his minutes, and that's been the problem. That's been the problem with the Islanders on paper all the time. They haven't been doing it because of what they have in their lineup. They've been
Hmm.
doing it because of the system that they play. And so, yeah, I mean, that was going to be a problem for the Islanders down the road. And now you're playing against a Tampa Bay team who, on the other end of the, I know Chernak made a mistake last night, but I mean, you take Andy Green and put him over on Tampa and take Chernak and put it over in the Islanders, and how much stronger of a team they are. They're a much stronger team, right? So,
Oh yeah,
um, it's
oh yeah.
Tampa's got the depth in that 5-6 spot. I mean, even if they had to put Shen in, which Shen is about Green. That's about
Hmm.
Green.
Oh,
And,
oh yeah.
Shen, if he was in, he would only play like 10 minutes. Green shouldn't be playing much more
Hmm.
than, 10 minutes a night, something like that, sheltered minutes. He's not going to bring you any offense anymore. The only thing he's going to do is he can still be calm under pressure. He's been around long enough that he's not going to overplay the puck in the defensive end and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
yeah, he's playing too many minutes. I should bring it up here and see, like, uh,
Yeah, he's 1849. He's
wow,
actually playing more minutes than Scott Mayfield. He's the fourth most played defenseman. I think he's playing alongside of Pulak, I
yeah,
think.
that's a lot.
Or can't remember exactly what they're doing, but I know they're playing Andy Green a lot. And he looks slow out there. He's a very slow defenseman, and it wasn't too badly analytic. But the worst line I felt for the Islanders, and a line that needs to get themselves going because they are a big producing line, is that Bavoulier Nelson Bailey line. They have not been going very much in this series. Analytically, they did not look very good in this game. I was not very impressed by them. They didn't do very much. Nelson didn't register a hit nor any shots. Pavilli only got one shot, and same with Bailey. So that line has to get themselves going a little bit because Islanders weren't able to score anything, and they only got one goal from their fourth line from Clutterbuck, and that was by accident, and it was practically assisted by Cernak. So they got to get their depth going a little bit more. Uh, and especially that line of the Nelson Bouvillier Bailey line, that line needs to get a little bit more going for the
Okay, I
Islanders.
got that. Okay, yeah, he played a little more than Mayfield. And I'm sorry,
Hmm.
but I mean, wouldn't be playing 18 minutes a night on most teams either. So,
No, well, no, neither would like their entire like they're being carried by
yeah.
Pulak and Pellick.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the Islanders, like if they were to have Devon Taves, this defensive core
On
would
that,
actually be
yeah,
very
yeah.
strong if they had Taves in that back end, right? You think about it, right? I mean, you go with Taves, Pulak, that would be one of the best defensive pairings in the
Yeah.
entire league, I think. You go with Pellick and Letty, you put a really good defensive defenseman alongside a Letty, which I think you definitely need, and then go with Green, Dobson, or Mayfield, whoever you want to use down there. If you think Mayfield's better than Dobson,
Mm-hmm.
then throw in Mayfield. Or if you think you need a puck moving guy alongside of Green, then do that. Taves is a big miss for them. I think that was a big
Oh yeah,
loss for
for
them in
sure.
that trade, but they they definitely are missing that defensive depth there for the Islanders, especially against the Lightning, who are playing Savard 13 minutes, and that guy deserves to be playing
Yeah.
more than that because he's a really solid, good defenseman
Hmm.
for the Lightning and was for the
Yeah.
Columbus Blue Jackets. Um,
It's their bottom
so
line. I mean, it's yeah, it's their bottom D that's really causing them a lot of grief. That compared to a lot of the lines that Tampa Bay can go out. The matchups are not good. The matchups are, you got Yanni Gord's having a heck of a playoffs this year, and they can put out uh, lines. They can put out lines. Their third line, and if you're putting your third pairing up against Tampa's third line, it's a mismatch. And that's really what it comes down to.
mhm.
So the only way I see the Islanders being able to win this is to play a deeper trap, um, and until they can find a break in Tampa Bay's offense. If they try to create play in a flow at all as far as offensive flow is concerned, Tampa Bay I think is just going to eat them alive. It just looks that way to me.
Isn't it funny how if you were to look at the Tampa Bay Lightning's ice minutes right now, we're talking about, just how Lightning are and just stacked they are. If you take a look at their ice time, Stamkos only got 14:26 of ice time. That's how deep this team is, right? Like almost every line on this team, the fourth line even got a little bit of minutes, but almost every
Yeah.
line on this team can produce. Like every line has that punch, and that's the scary thing about this team. You could play Kucherov for 20 minutes, and then the next night you could give a little bit of break to Kucherov and let Stamkos take her away, or let Brain Point take her away. Point and Kucherov have been crazy good. I don't know if they're going to be able to stop. And if those guys keep on producing the way that they are unstoppable.
Yeah, and like I said, it all comes down to what's on paper, and they are a team that is way better than the sum of their parts. They have players that like Bailey. What's Bailey done in this whole series? Has he done anything? You know,
I
yeah,
haven't
like
seen them.
and he's like a second line player for them. Eberle has been ghosty pretty much. Yeah, they haven't been able
I
to
haven't
get
seen them.
anything going. The only thing players that really have been showing up is that third line or the fourth line is probably their best line, and that's been the case a lot for the Islanders, and that's cool and all, but you can't have that against Tampa Bay. you know, uh,
Like, yeah, Eberle hasn't scored a goal since the second last game
mhm.
against Boston. He's had 2 assists against Tampa Bay, but that's it. Has not put up a single goal yet for the Islanders. And this is a big goal scoring guy for the Islanders, right? I'm a big fan of Eberle, and he got to go out there and get some big goals for that team, especially Bouvillier. Same with Palmieri. You need a lot of those guys to start producing if you want to go toe to toe against the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think the Islanders will come back though. You're in Nassau Coliseum for Game 4. It's going to be loud and it's going to be rowdy in there. And Trotz is going to have a game plan. You kind of have to
That's
go with it.
that's the thing. I'm saying the same thing that they'll probably win, and you'll be like, how did that happen? Because that's what the Islanders do.
Mhm.
Like the Islanders do that all the time. They'll probably win, and you'll wonder how they did it. Uh, what did we have here? I'm trying to find. Uh,
Oh, the
yeah, we
scores for the
just had
game.
before people put a score in,
Because
but it was 2-1. And we all thought the Islanders were going to win this one.
yeah, I went three to
Yeah,
two
Mercer
Isles.
was the
I
only one
think.
that picked the Lightning. 4-2. Um, but Tampa is just proving that they can play it any way you want, and I don't know. The Islanders will probably win this one. I think, maybe. But as a whole in the series, I don't give them much of a chance. But then I've said that how many times about the Islanders before, and then next thing I know, they're winning the series. So
The thing is, we have said that a lot about the New York Islanders. I think almost every series they've been in this year has been, they're behind 2-1, and then it just seems like they just come back and they just play such a tight defensive game. Um, and we might see that. But the thing is, they're going up against the Tampa Bay Lightning, who is an incredibly strong team, and they just, like you were saying, they got great pairs all up and down that lineup. And also, John, I don't think Savard's playing with Hedman. Savard's playing with Shergachev, and I think Jan Rutta is playing with Hedman. So that's the way that the defensive pairs, and then McDonough is of course playing with Cernak, which I really like their defensive core. It's stacked all the way down. You got great left-handed defensemen and some great right-handed defensemen all the way down that pair. It's just insane what Tampa
Yeah.
Bay
Oh
has on
yeah.
paper.
They're super stacked, but they do have to do something about uh, in the playoffs being over the cap like that. That just doesn't make any sense to me.
I think there was a rule that just got implemented that they have to be like not salary cap or compliant, but like they have to be underneath the salary cap. I
Yeah.
think they are going to be coming out with a CBA for that. I
Yeah,
think for next
I
year.
think you're going to be allowed to be a certain amount over the cap, but not $10 million over the cap. And so if Tampa Bay
No.
does win this, there's always going to be an asterisk beside it. They they changed the rules
Hmm.
because of that, and there's always the kind of, I don't know, funniness about all of a sudden Kucherov needing surgery, where they said the Brisebois said that sometimes you just get lucky. Really? Losing Kucherov for a whole season was lucky for you? Really? So that tells me right off the bat
Uh,
that they're full of it. Because you don't he doesn't even know what to say, the right thing to say. The right thing to say there is, you don't think we wanted Kucherov for the regular season? Come on. What do you think, we're so good that we're just going to make the playoffs? But he said, instead he says sometimes we just get lucky. That's where I'm like, yeah, you got lucky all right. You talk to some doctors to say he probably did need some sort of surgery somewhere along the line. He could have did it, at the end of the playoffs and missed a little bit of the season or whatever. But
I think he was good a month before the playoffs. The way that he's playing here in the playoffs means that he was good a month or two before the playoffs, and he was training a lot before he stepped down on the ice because the way that he's playing right now is insane. He is insane
oh
how
yeah, he's a
good he
great
is.
player. He's one of the best wingers that ever played the game. Let's face it. I mean, he will go down as one of the best
Oh,
wingers that ever played the game for sure. No doubt about it. There's no
mm-hmm,
question of that. He's got like his puck skills, and when he's got the puck on the stick, the guy's a magician, and he does like
mm-hmm.
Datsuk type stuff. On Yeah,
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Yes, Lauren, the Leafs definitely do need a serious culture rebuild because he's replying back to John saying that the Leafs might not make it to the playoffs, which they will. They are a playoff team unless their goaltending goes to crap. I don't see that team not making it to the playoffs next year. I see them making it.
probably, but I mean, again, it's all about what happens after the playoffs, and um, Marner's going to have another year to grow as a player. He's taking a lot of flack right now, and I guess justifiably so. But the guy played right from the time he got in the like basically got drafted pretty much. It takes time
Hmm.
to learn what it means to play in the playoffs. You hear it over and over and over again, and every young player hears it, but you don't realize it till you're actually in there. And I think some things have been just unfortunate. Losing Tavares there is big, not just about on the ice, but for players like Marner and stuff like that. Not getting too frustrated, not getting too high, not getting too low. It's good to have
Hmm.
Tavares on there for those sort of things. So um, another year, it's like in Toronto, they should be called the Toronto Another Years. That
They should.
another year next year, Toronto next year's, the Toronto next year's.
Yep, the Toronto next year's.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and that really is what just heightens it. But if you take away the fact that Toronto has been like this for such a long time, and you look at it from just in actuality, there's a lot of upside here. Matthews is a beast already, a fair at 24, and he's just going to get better and better. Marner's still going to get
Oh,
Marner's
without a
still going to
doubt.
get way better. Nylander could have 90 to 100 points next year. You got like
That defensive core is good still too. Like they need some improvements upon there, but you still have Brody, Riley, Muzzin. This is the exact same team basically without Hyman. And get rid of the old farts
yeah,
of Thornton,
yeah,
Simmons,
yeah.
and Foligno. You guys, I don't understand. I was kind of understanding what Dubas was doing. He was trying to build a veteran team filled with a bunch of veteran players. But the problem when you do that is it makes the depth so slow, it's unbearable to watch. The only good player on that depth was Spencer, and they signed him back up to another deal, which was a great deal. A steal. 750 league minimum. Amazing deal. But Simmons didn't do anything for you. Thornton wasn't bad, but he was slow. And at 41 years old, I don't think he's going to have very much of an impact, especially as your
Yeah.
third line centerman. It's a centerman position, and centerman position is the biggest
Mm-hmm.
position to fill. Kerfoot's not
Kerfoot's
your third line
useless.
centerman. He's
I
not.
think he's just a perimeter player that can't really do much of anything.
He's a decent complementary player if he's playing alongside of Tavares or
Yeah.
Matthews. But if he's not with one of those guys,
No,
he's
he
not
doesn't
that good.
really bring much to the table. They've, yeah, I agree. They need character, right? They need some people there that can. But again, we've said it over and over again. They got to be able to play. They got to be able to play. I mean, I like Spezza. I think Spezza brings a lot to that team. There's nothing wrong with bringing him back for a league minimum. That's fine. But some they and I like Foligno too, just not for this team particularly. I don't see where he fits ice wise for this team particularly. Uh, it's kind of I maybe a guy like Palmieri or something like that to play on the wing. He can or he can play. He can score you 25 or 30 goals and still be able to. He's going to be a little
Mm-hmm.
more expensive. It's a tough roster to fill out. They don't have much space, so I kind of understand what Dubas was doing because he was trying to pick up guys at like league minimum and $1 million players, which is a very difficult thing to do. But I just think a 40-year-old guy that isn't really going to play in the playoffs is not what you need. You need a guy that's going to be able to play when he gets there.
You
Hey
do.
CL, how you doing by the way? Hi John. John Weichel, thanks for coming in. Uh, Simmer's good, a fourth line guy
Yeah.
at league minimum, sure, whatever. But he's never been a guy that they. He's not going to be the guy that they want there. I'll just take a look. Let's bring up some guys. Let's take a look at what Toronto can do since everybody wants to talk about Toronto today. There's nothing wrong with
Well,
that.
yeah,
Nothing
we're
wrong with that. I love
yeah.
talking about Toronto. They're one of the
No,
most
I love
interesting
talking about Toronto.
teams in the league. This off season's every off season is like, what are they going to do? What are they going to do?
Yeah, they got $11.75 million in salary cap. Right now, the way that I would probably build the lines is Kerfoot, Matthews, Marner, and then Tavares, Mikheyev, and Nylander would be my second line. And then the depth just gets mangled from there. You only really have Spencer, Engvall. You have Robertson, who they've been talking about him maybe playing full time. Would it be a bad idea to maybe try him up on the top line? But he is, I mean, yes, I always say he's small, but that always comes into a factor once he kind of gets in the playoffs. But I mean, Cole Caulfield's been amazing. So Robertson might be as well, but who knows? Like, there's a lot of big questions. And then they're also losing Zach Hyman. I don't think they'll be able to get back
That's
Zach
big for
Hyman
this
onto this
team.
team.
And then they're going to have to
It
replace
is.
him. Like I think we were already talking about it. Look at Coleman and Goudreau in Tampa Bay. They're probably not going to be able to resign those guys. I would look at guys like that. Coleman and is it Goudreau? Is
I
it?
for Toronto, I think for Toronto, maybe making deals with teams that are tight with the salary cap wouldn't be a bad idea for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Making you gotta play with the area that you have. Maybe make some smart moves. Dubas is definitely not an analytic GM. I know people
He
think
was
he is, but he's not. The moves
he
that
was
he's made,
supposed to be. That's what it
the
all
moves
came into be.
he was
That's what
supposed
it
to
all
be.
came.
But the Foligno move was only good defensively. He was horrible offensively. Simmons was horrible analytically. Thornton was decent. Galchenyuk playing in the top six. was just not the way that you
Uh,
want to go, right? I mean, Galchenyuk he was decent at some moments of time, but then there was other moments where it's just like, what is this?
I think what happened with
Um,
Dubas is what happened there is he really started out. We're going to go fully analytics, right? Full analytics, no doubt about it. And then he started to realize that there's more to it than analytics, and he wanted to bring in some people that can bring the pain and all of those sort of things that are very important too. You don't want to pay a lot for it, but you combine the two. There's guys that can do that that are analytically strong, and I think if we look here, we should be able to find some guys that
Casey Zizekas,
Casey Zizekas would. Yeah, I
great
wonder how much
defensively.
he's going to make. He would be a guy that I'd be looking at too, for sure, no doubt about it.
Islanders might not be able to sign him, and he would be a great third line, fourth line centerman for that team at cheap.
What about what
Then you
about
also maybe
Matthias
talk
Janmark?
about
Do you think he's going to get? He's probably going to get too much though on the open markets.
see no I Matthias Janmark, he's not terrible. The thing is, 5-on-5 offensively, he's not that great. Defensively this year, he wasn't too great. Was when he was playing with Dallas, and he played a really good defensive game. He's not terrible, but he's not the greatest analytic player. But I could see them going after him and maybe putting him up on the top line, because that could be someone that's cheap. Maybe even a Brandon Saad as
Brendan
well.
Saad,
They could look
how
at
much
him.
is he going to make? I think somebody's going to overpay for Saad. I'm looking for. What about
15 goals. Uh, that's the problem. I think they're only going to be able to pay for one guy. I think someone like a Saad, someone like a Stastny, maybe a
Stastny?
Benino,
Would be
the
all right.
guys that are going to be cheap.
Stastny would be all right. Benino
They're
would be
gonna
fantastic. That's the guy's kind of guy I'm talking about.
Benino would be.
Benino would be
Benino would
fantastic.
be.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. He can play. He's got everything. He checks off all the boxes. Benino would be fantastic. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there.
Eric Holla.
There, I was just going to mention
Er-
Eric Holla before you said Benino. So there you go. Eric Holla, how Holla can play on the left side. There's two parts of your third line right there. I like those. That's great.
No, no way, Lord. No way Sad is looking for
No,
$7 to $8 million.
no, I don't
No.
think so.
He's never gonna get that. He will be sitting in free agency if he's asking for that
Yeah,
amount of money.
yeah. Saad, Lauren,
I could see
I'm
at like
usually all over you, Lauren, but I think that he won't get that much. No,
maybe five, maybe
even
six
that's an
again.
overpayment for a guy his age.
But yeah, like he's a good goal scorer, but I mean that's really all he brings is he's a great goal scorer. And I think he'd fit perfectly with Toronto on that second line or even that first line.
Yeah, I
I
don't think
think I
Saad's
think
gonna
the
get that
biggest thing
much.
for Toronto is that they need a third line centerman and they also need wingers badly. They only have Mikheyev, Kerfoot, and really Pierre Igval and Spencer, and that's really it that they got for wingers. They don't got very much,
E
especially for
Money
depth.
says he would protect the whole fourth line. Okay, I love that fourth line, but I
Oh, for
think
the
it's a
Isles?
little overdone. I think you're talking about one of the greatest coaches that there is. I think he could do something with cheaper that's still just as good. I really think they could do that, but we'll, I don't know. I could be wrong about that, but and maybe it's Trotz himself that's telling them to hold them in. But I can't see them making 3.5 million anymore. Not in this NHL.
No, Clutterbuck's not that. He's not that guy anymore.
Tyler
Uh,
Bozak's a train wreck defensively, isn't he?
I think. Well, I wouldn't want Tyler Bozak on the Maple Leafs. I think, anyways. Actually, he's actually not that bad
Oh, really?
defensively. This year, didn't have that bad of a season, but offensively, he's not that great anymore. He's been going downhill. He's going to be 35 years old. Maybe could be a cheap option for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He could take a hometown discount coming back to the Maple Leafs too. Could possibly be a fourth line guy for the team. Would not be a bad idea to pick up Tyler Bozak. Would
Depends
not
on
be
what
a bad idea.
depend.
Brings in Stanley Cup
And
leadership.
they had him
So
before. The question is, uh, The question is, I just he's the kind of guy that teams like to overpay for. I just have a feeling that somebody's going to
Yes,
overpay for him. That's
but
the problem. I think.
I don't think they will anymore because this fact that I mean, 17 points in 31 games is not bad. It's not terrible, but I don't know. 35 years old, usually those types of players get cheaper contracts once they get up near that age. Like especially like a Corey Perry. Corey Perry's just been basically getting league minimum for the past 2 seasons, and he's been a solid player. Maybe even something to look at for the Toronto Maple Leafs is Alex Goligoski as
Yeah,
well
Al.
to play maybe that
Yeah,
top
I'm
six
I'm
or a
all over
Jalmerson
Goligoski or Jalmerson.
because
Absolutely, no doubt about
I
it.
I don't like I don't like Justin
No, I
Hall.
don't either. I would I
I
would
don't
take
like him.
Goligoski or Jalmerson over Hall all day long on a 1 year contract, a million or whatever, for
Mhm.
sure. No doubt about it. Let Hall go to Seattle or whatever.
Oh yeah, get rid of him. You don't need him.
No, you don't need him.
Hall was not very good. Hall was not very good. I mean, you got right now the way that I looked at it when they came into the playoffs is that they had three confident defensemen in Muzzin and Brody and Riley. Riley can't play defense; he can play good offensively, so you're really relying on Brody and Muzzin. Dermott didn't do too great in the playoffs. Sandin wasn't bad, but made
He
some
will be good.
mistakes.
He will
He's
be good.
young.
Yeah.
He will be. And then Justin Hall. Timothy Liljegren's a mystery on whether he's going to be good or not.
It doesn't look like it right now. It's not trending that way.
He's a complete
Yeah.
mystery. No, he's not been able to keep, any he hasn't been able to get any ice time with the Toronto Maple Leafs compared to what Sandin's been getting. They need to go after a right-handed defenseman to finish that up. And I don't think you guys would like Darren Helm. I mean, he used to be uh he'd be a solid fourth line guy, but that's once again
Darren
another
Helm,
solid fourth
it
line guy.
depends on what. I mean, he's going to be league minimum. A guy that can play like he's going to be like a taxi guy, maybe as a taxi guy to play up in the.
He could play good PK. He has the speed to I think carry
Yeah,
him pretty good there in
yeah,
Toronto.
he's a taxi guy,
I think
which there won't
oh
be a taxi guy next year.
another guy. No, Matthew
Yeah,
Perrault.
Matthew Perot would be good. Yeah, I think Perot will get a lot of looks out there from a lot of teams. Actually, you can't get a
I think so
a better
too.
utility player than Perot. He's got enough skill to play up in if you get some injuries into your top six every once in a while. You don't want it on a regular basis, but he can do it, and he can play bottom pairing. He can play all over the lineup. Yeah, Matthew Perot would be great.
That's the thing, especially if Toronto's low on cap, right? They can pick up Matthew Perreault and then get another guy. Maybe Perreault's your backup if Robertson doesn't do as well as what you want him to be. Then you could throw Perreault and be up on the top line or second line or whatever. But I think the biggest thing with Toronto this year is that they need a third line centerman. Benito would be perfect, or a crap ton
Yeah,
of wingers. They need some real solid wingers, not just old farts that can't do anything out on the ice. They need some players that could actually play
yeah,
hockey. And no offense to Joe Thornton, he did great, but he's getting up there in age. He's not as fast as what he used to be. The knee injuries are starting to hinder him a little bit. They need to move on. They need to find somebody that could bring him some more speed and pack a punch, which could be a
yeah.
Perot. That could be a
Let
Tyler
let
Bozak. That could be a Yanmark.
let Kerfoot go. Yanmark is good. Well, I'll let Kerfoot go. See if you can get Yanmark in there. Like I said, our fourth liner. If everything works out the way we're saying right now, we'd have Benino, Cizikas, Holla, and Perot to roam around in your top six or whatever you want to plug them in. And I don't mind that. I think that's a much deeper team than they had before.
John, I like that idea. Jason Demers as well.
Yeah, you could get him for
I
like
don't mind that idea.
700,000, 800,000. You probably get him at a league minimum right now. He's not going to bring you much offensively, but he can play.
Yeah, he didn't have the greatest
No,
year
no,
this
he didn't.
year. Last year he wasn't bad, but this year he was not what he used
Yeah,
to
I
be.
have a feeling
So maybe
injuries are.
he's a maybe good pickup.
Yeah, just pick him up so you can like at a league minimum to throw in there every once in a while. I don't think he can play a full season anymore. I think his body's starting to break down on him. Anyways, let's get
Yeah.
into some other news, of course, as well. Uh,
Mm.
See, it's funny when you talk about one team for a long time, people take off on you. uh, Brindamore.
Yes, wins the Jack
Yeah, that's
Adams.
cool. I
Uh,
still think that Q should have won it, though. Don't I still think Q.
um, I feel like it was almost a 50-50 toss between the both of those guys. And I do agree with you on the Quinville thought because with Brendan Moore, it was already a dominant team. It was a team that was already there from last year, basically. It was identical. I think the reason why they gave it to him was because basically he just kept that on top of that division throughout the entire season. Now, what Quenville did was amazing. He had a bunch of players that, were maybe going to be good, like a Verhage, like a Duclair, made them really good. Defensively, they were atrocious last year and great this year. So yeah, I without a doubt I see that Quenville. But I was talking with Steele and he was saying maybe the reason why they didn't give it to Quenville is because he already won it, and they wanted to give it to Brendan Moore and give him a award, who had a great season coaching, without a doubt, amazing season coaching.
Yeah. I totally think that. Well, this is the way I see it: is that Carolina team's going nowhere but up, right? It's going to be super strong soon, and it's almost going to be too good of a team that he might not get one. Sort of like what happens with Cooper in Tampa Bay. So if you
Yeah,
give it to him now, then down the road, he gets his coach of the year for his. He may get another one somewhere down the road. Who knows? But he gets it now, and
yeah.
that's the way they're looking at it. But to me, I'm just looking at it from pure who did the best, who had the best effort coaching, I guess you would say. I would say like who had the biggest obstacle and got a team to do more with less and all of that stuff. That's usually who they give the coach of the year to. To me, that goes
Yeah.
to Q for sure this year. But I understand why he got it. Like Carolina's going to get better, and the team is going to be so good he probably won't get one again. And actually, if Florida does the same thing next year, or is even better, Q will still be there, right?
Yeah, I think he'll still be there. Same with Dean Evanson. I know. I think I was talking with Steele about off the wall hockey, also thinking that Dean Evanson is. It's kind of funny how we all think there should be different winners for this Jack Adams. That's how many good coaches there were this year. Like even Barry Trotz, we've been talking about how good he's been this year in this playoffs. He only had one vote.
That's
One
crazy.
vote. Dave Dave Tippett and John Haynes had more votes than Barry Trotz.
Yeah.
So it's baffling. Dean Evanson also got nominated for this award as well. Did pretty good. But definitely just looking at Quinville and Brendan Moore's resume this year, just impressive. Evanson did some impressive stuff with the Wild. They were way better than what I expected. But if Wild keep going up, I could even see Dean Evanson winning Jack Adams here very soon if Wild keep going up from here.
Oh yeah, Dean Evison will likely get one for sure. I think he did fantastic with that team. It's mind-boggling to me how Barry Trotz. People have gotten so used to how good Barry Trotz is now that it's almost like oh yeah, whatever. It's almost like an afterthought now. But really,
Hmm.
like we were just mentioning, the Islanders on paper don't. And I think didn't the Islanders? Where did the Islanders finish this year? They were fourth, right?
I think they
Yeah,
were
that
fourth.
maybe that's it.
Yeah.
But they not too many coaches would bring that lineup into a playoff spot in the East that year. Let's face it. Yeah, that's he keeps
Hmm.
on bringing the Islanders into the playoffs and then pushing them into the semis with a lineup that shouldn't be there. So every year Barry Trotz should be there, and I think um, it's unfortunate Cooper should have one by now, but his team is just too strong, and that's unfortunate. Q got one already when his team was really strong, though, which is odd. It's weird what they do sometimes because he had any one of those
It
Chicago
is.
teams. In fact, they would before he went to Florida. The stigma was that Q just has a really good team, and he's not really. We don't really know how great of a coach he is and stuff like that. And then that's why I think he goes to Florida and he knocks it out of the park. It's really hard for me that he didn't get it this year. But they do weird stuff with
Hmm.
Coach of the Year. The year that the last year that Tortorella brought Columbus to the playoffs, how does Cassidy win Coach of the Year that year? That was
Oh,
ridiculous.
breaking
What's that?
news. Breaking news. I believe the Montreal head coach Dominic Ducharme has confirmed a positive COVID
Oh
test
wow.
and will not be participating in Game 3 tonight. We'll wait for further information. Also, Darren Drager said that he might have to be sidelined for at least 10 days since he has that positive test. So, no Ducharme behind the bench for the Montreal Canadiens. Wow, that just broke right
Well,
now.
okay, this is going to bring
Holy.
up a whole lot of things. How does it? How is he not vaccinated yet?
He might have not gotten there in Quebec yet. Well, yeah. Well, how many days? Because isn't it? It's less if you are vaccinated, but I don't think we have the second shot here yet here in Canada. So you're not fully vaccinated. You only have that one
Yeah,
shot.
I don't know. That's we'll see what happens there. I think that question's going to come up for sure. Was he vaccinated or not? Um, but
Mm-hmm.
anyways, I want to finish my thought there.
Yeah. Go
I
ahead.
think Cassidy's a great coach, but that year when he won,
Mm-hmm.
Tortorella all day long. They had no business for that team making the playoffs that year. It was ridiculous. He was using third string goaltenders. The lineup before it even got started was not good enough to make the playoffs. They had injuries all day, uh, but you tick off the media like he does, and that's what happens. So there's a lot that
Yep.
goes with Coach of the Year that has nothing to do with whether he was Coach of the Year. To me, he'll always be Coach of the Year that year. That I kind of wish that wouldn't be the case, but it is the case, and that's the way it is, I guess. But that being said, I mean, I'll never be think that Brindamore is a bad choice for Coach of the Year because he's a great coach. He's an amazing coach. How much better would Carolina be with a different coach, or how much less would they be with a different coach there? They do have a stacked lineup, but how much can you apply that to Brindamore? Uh,
I think you could say that Brendan Moore has yes, the talent's there, but I felt like it changed the locker room there in Carolina. And Brendan Moore was such a huge thing for that locker room because for many years that this team was after they won that cup, they just were a bottom feeder for years and they had horrible seasons, Skinner and Stahl and just locker room problems and now they actually have a competent good team and I think Brendan Moore has helped with the locker room big time in getting those guys energetic and ready to go. I think Brendan Moore has done a lot for that. I think the next big step for the Hurricanes though is if once they're able to add some, more big bodies and just add better depth, I think Brendan Moore can coach this team all the way to a Stanley Cup
oh
final.
yeah,
Once Tampa Bay stops being so stacked.
Brindamore is the kind of guy that regardless of the team that's there, you just have to listen to him. And you're like
Mm-hmm.
every time he speaks, you're like this guy just says everything perfectly. His heart is like perfect. Everything. You're like I wish I could play for that team. You know what I mean? I'd love to play for a team or that has Rod Brindamore as a coach. It
Mm-hmm.
isn't even, and I think that maybe might be I feel the same way about Cooper, but Cooper doesn't have the same charismatic way about him that Brindamore does. And also, being the player that he was, he's an NHL player too,
Mm-hmm.
so he gets a lot from that as well. I mean, one of the most well respected people in the league. By the way, hi Joey, thanks for coming in, buddy. Somebody said there's somebody who lives in Vegas, and I'm trying to remember who that is. Is it Avatar? Isn't it Avatar that lives in Vegas? Hey, Perlo, hey, our Avatar, welcome. We're doing fantastic, dude. Talking hockey all day. What else? Hockey GMC, how you doing, buddy? Thanks for coming in, bud.
Well,
Okay, well, we got 15 minutes. I'll talk about tonight's game in 15 minutes. So throw it out there. You guys are really good. We were talking a whole lot of Leafs. Um, oh wait, we're
yeah, Leafs.
we were talking a whole lot of Leafs. Go Habs tonight. Yeah, you want the Habs to win tonight? Oh, well, what the heck? Let's just talk about that game. Why
Might
not?
as
Okay.
well.
Yeah.
Why not?
Uh,
Oh, this game's gonna be exciting.
I gotta change my
I
title now again. You are in Colorado, right? Sorry, I got to write all this stuff down in my journal. I keep on forgetting to write it down. Um, this is going to be a crazy interesting game because both of these teams are doing some heavy travel uh, right to heavy travel to go right across the country. Now, Montreal made that travel once to go to Vegas. Now they're doing the travel back. And the big thing here is okay, on one side, people are saying, well, the Canadians are used to this travel because they did it all year, because they were in the North Division, they were traveling across country and all that stuff like that. Something to be said there. Vegas hasn't had to do it ever, so this will be somewhat new to them. They haven't did it this year, anyways. Somewhat new to them, I suppose. But on the other side of it, I look at it as well. The Canadians did have to do that travel the whole time. You got to figure that all of this travel and everything with the playoffs and everything could be wearing on them quite a bit. So, what do you think is the greatest advantage? Do you think it's better to have been able to do this travel and now you're a little more quote quote used to it? Or do you think the travel could be wearing on Montreal up here and Vegas has the advantage because they've really only had to do it one time?
It could be. I mean, remember the only we were legit. I think when the second round finished, we actually had 2 nights of no hockey for the first time since the season started up. And that tells you a lot about this year. We've been flying through the games this year, and these players have been traveling a lot, especially the Canadian division. I think the Canadian division was one of the divisions where you had to travel the most, right? You had to go from Quebec all the way to BC, so you were already kind of dealing with the time zone that Vegas already had to kind of deal with with going to Vancouver. So I feel like it's definitely just the exhaustion of the series overall, just playing a lot of games, playing the 56, and now playing, already the 2 first rounds and now up against the Vegas Golden Knights. It's a lot of hockey for these guys, but they did have that 1 week off. I think the Habs are still ready to go, but I feel like the injuries are starting to stack up on them. Petrie, with his red eyes,
Mm-hmm.
um, and with his hand, they're feeling that pain. And Montreal, I think tonight they're gonna have to play their hardest, honestly, if they want to take that seriously, because they need to. Also to note on Vegas, Alex Tuck is playing first line center
That was
tonight
what.
between Mark Stone and
Finally,
Pacioretty.
I was wondering why they didn't do that in the first place. He's a natural center to begin with. That's a brilliant. Well, is it a brilliant move? I don't know because I came up with it, so it's probably not brilliant. It's an obvious move. It was an obvious move to me.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't do it right off the top, actually. And talk about that with the Islanders game last night. I'll go back to that for a second. I love Barry Trotz, but why
Mhm.
the heck didn't he change up his lines a bit last night?
I think that's just kind of the Barry Trotz thing. I know even Dave Tippett sometimes does it, where he just doesn't change the lineups at all. Doesn't make no sense to me. I think it's maybe chemistry or whatever it may be. Just for some reason, they just don't like changing their lines. It makes no sense to me because I feel like uh, if I were to coach, I would be changing the lineups if my team wasn't going and they weren't scoring goals and everything like that. I would change up the lineups, but I think this line change of putting Tuck up on that top line is smart. He's a good point producer. Makes the depth a bit weaker, but what can you do, right? You got to make those top six stacked, especially against the Montreal Canadiens when that top line of Pacioretty and Stone wasn't doing very good in the first place. They got to get themselves going a bit, and hopefully Tuck will be able to do that up on the
I
top
love
line.
that play. I think Tuck up in the top sign center. He's not a great face-off guy, but overall, I think you get a lot more value out of him than say Colasar or somebody like that. So in that on that top line, looking at that, let's bring up Vegas and see what the rest of the lines are going to look like if they do that. I never even.
Here, so the second line stays the same, but the third line is Dylan Sikora, Nicholas Roy, and Matthias Janmark. And then their fourth line is the same as well. It's Carrier, Colasar, and Reeves is their fourth line. So a bit of a heavy hitting
Yeah, I
fourth
like
line.
That's a good fourth line. So you said they're putting Sakura in tonight.
Yeah, Dylan Sikora up on the third line there. Because no second and Stevenson are out with injuries, so it looks like they're going to be throwing
He
him into the lineup over Patrick
Brown.
Brown.
Okay, he comes in instead of Brown. Okay. Well, one thing about bringing in Sakura into the lineup like that, like Sakura is just a very inspirational person. He has come a long way to just get everything he had. He has given every effort he possibly could. There's he's a kind of uplifting individual. So, and I think they're really going to need that for a game like this where they just traveled all the way across the country, like I said before. So, I don't mind that play. But Pacioretty, Tuck, Stone, Marcia Stoke, then that second line stays that way. Uh, so, yeah, and it'll be Sakura, Wah, Yanmark. Is that what you said?
Sorry. Oh yeah, the Sakara, Roy, and then
Okay.
Yanmark. Yeah.
So, Yanmark will go, Sakura will go on the right side on that play. I like that. I think that's going to be make it just fun to watch to see how that's going to work out right there. I think, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and getting fresh legs again is a good idea when you're going to do all that travel. So bringing in Sakura on some fresh legs is a good move. Now the Canadians are just going to basically just sort of keep rolling with what they've already been rolling with. No
Yeah.
lineup changes or anything like that.
No lineup changes. Now from what it looks like, it's basically the same. Perry's still on the same line. Everyone looks like. Um, yeah, looks basically all the same. No Gallagher looking in and into Foley, Suzuki, Caulfield. Yeah, same lines as what they had the other day. Um, man, I feel like I feel like Vegas is gonna win this game tonight. I feel like they gotta have that oomph that they missed out in game two. You know, Montreal played a really good game. I feel like the Vegas Golden Knights tonight have to play a way better game. And I feel like Tuck up on that top line is just going to change something. I like Tuck. I've always been a big fan of Alex Tuck because he's always been able to, produce big points when he needs to. And I think Alex Tuck will be able to do it tonight, especially up on that top line. Don't know how good of a centerman he's going to be, especially with having to deal with Deneau, who is going to be taking a majority of those faceoffs all night. It's going to be a tough one, but I think that line's going to be good 5-on-5 wise, just not good at winning faceoffs.
Yeah, it's not going to win too many faceoffs, but I think they could work around that. Honestly, faceoffs honestly are a
Yeah,
little overrated. I
hmm
mean, it is
they are.
important in certain
Well,
situations, but it's not important all the time.
it seems to be very important for Vegas right now because the thing is, all their goals have been coming from faceoff wins and from the point. I think the biggest thing right now for them is that they got to be able to get their forwards producing right now and actually be able to score on the rush and be able to actually get some shots in close and not just every shot being from the point and that's how you gain all your goals because it's not always going to work out for the Vegas Golden Knights. So I think that's going to be the biggest thing for
Okay,
them
we got
tonight.
5 minutes. We're going to put in our picks. We just got a whole bunch of people in here, so whoever. Hey, Lemon, welcome, man. You just came in time to put your picks in for the Vegas Canadians game. So I don't know. I think this is going to be a tough game for both teams. Personally, I think it's going to be a low-scoring game, and
Mhm.
I got it almost as a 50-50 split. I'm not really sure who's going to win this. It feels like an overtime to me. It feels like this could be an overtime to me.
I know we haven't even seen it in overtime in a while. It's been a while, but I feel it. I even felt that game, like the Islanders Tampa Bay game. I was watching. I'm like, man, this game could totally go to overtime. I'm like, this game could totally go to overtime, and then it never did. I feel like this one will be 3-1 Vegas. I feel like it's going to be close all the way up until the end. I feel like Vegas will probably get an empty netter near the end, and I'm going to choose 3-1. I feel like Vegas is going to get that first goal, and they're just going to ride it throughout the rest of the game. I feel like that's what Vegas is going to do
Hockey
tonight.
all day, all night. Hey, you get along with us real well because that's that's
Hey,
what
Leafs
our
fan.
life is. Hockey all day, all night. For sure. To me, Leafs fan, we missed it. We were talking a whole lot of Leafs earlier there, buddy. Um, so
Mhm.
what was I going to say? I think it's gonna be a low scoring game. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go 2-1. Uh, I'm gonna go 2-1 Vegas in OT. I think
Ooh,
it's
an
going to be an
OT.
OT game. I think it's going to be a low scoring game because I think there's going to be some heavy legs out there that
Mm-hmm.
uh, so if there's heavy legs, it kind of, I don't know, maybe I want Montreal. It's a coin flip. I want Vegas to win, so I'm going Vegas because I just love Vegas. But um, it's more of a heart play. But I actually think this might go into Montreal's hands a little bit because they're not the faster team, and because there's going to be heavier legs. They could have a little more of an advantage in this game. Not to mention you got the home crowd, and even though it's only 3,000, Montreal fans are going to be loud. That 3,000 is still going to be about as loud as you can get. CL is taking
Mm-hmm.
2-0 Habs.
I could see that. I mean, I could see either team winning tonight. Honestly, I could see the Habs winning. I could also see the Vegas Golden Knights winning tonight. And it's kind of funny, I've never been a big Montreal fan. I've been a slight Montreal fan, but for some reason, throughout this playoffs, I started hating them at the beginning, and they just keep slowly growing on me with every win that they get. Like Price, I used to be a big hater on him. I thought he was struggling, and now this year, now this playoffs, he's just been absolutely insane. And I was talking about on the Sports Desk show that we just recorded, which will be going up later on today. I was talking about how Price and how fans like flop on Price. How even their own fans, how the Habs fans flop back and forth on Price. When it gets to the playoffs, Price is all new. No one talk anything bad about Price because Price is the Lord and Savior. And then once we get to the playoff or the regular season, it seems like everyone just hammers on Carey Price and just absolutely demolishes the guy. It's just it's weird to me at some moments at times how fans can flop and
Yeah.
change their mind on some people, especially
Hockey
Carey
All Day,
Price.
who's a Leafs fan, has taken the Habs 4-3. Wow. That's pretty
Wow.
confident.
Huh. A lot of people are choosing the Habs tonight. They're thinking that the Tampa Bay Lightning, they're thinking of the Tampa Bay Lightning because Islanders won game one and then the Lightning won the next two. So they're thinking maybe the Canadians might do that, but I don't know. The Golden Knights, they're a good team. I think they got to bring their A game
Yeah,
tonight.
well, they are the better team on paper. There's no doubt about that. But
I think I think their depth, forward depth, is the weakest part of the Golden
up the
Knights right
middle,
now, especially looking
up
on
the
paper.
yeah.
Up the middle. Up the middle, they get beat
Mm-hmm.
without a doubt. Suzuki, Kakanami, and I'll take that any day over. Well, it would be hard to take him over William Karlsson, but right now, I would definitely take that over William Karlsson. That's their only centerman that they have in Nicholas Roy, so they don't got a lot going for them there in Vegas. But once they hopefully get back Stevenson and Nosek, maybe everything can go back to normal. But when is that going to be
Yeah.
happening? Probably
Well,
not for a little
Stevenson's
bit.
day by day to day. That's all that DeBoer would say. But which tells me that it's dicey. He'll be back in the near future. I think they were going heavy on Glass being there, hoping, but he just never progressed the way they were hoping that he would. I think he'll still be fine or whatever. We talked about that already, but he's not available now, and I'm pretty sure they'll be going after a center. Vegas, they don't sit on their hands. If they can find a way to
Mhm.
get it, like maybe let Martinez go, which is rough, but and then work on a center, and then they got some guys like Clegg, I believe, not Clegg. I might have the wrong defenseman there. They got a couple of defensemen there that can play. So that'll play in at least in the regular season and hopefully build up. And then at the deadline, they can maybe look at getting some depth that way. But I think they'll be going after a center for sure. Imagine if they were able to find a way to get Nugent Hopkins.
Yeah, no way. They got like
Yeah,
$2.4 million in cap space. They would have to play some magic, real magic to get
that's true.
Nuge, but no, no, please,
No,
no, please.
yeah,
I don't want to see Nuge in another
no,
uniform.
I don't either. But that would be the biggest play right now, I think, unless they give like, how about Krejci for like half the money he made last year or something like that? He that
That'd be somebody good for
for sure.
Vegas. The thing is, I think the biggest challenge for Vegas going into next year is what do you do with your goaltending? Because you definitely need to clear up some cap space. Your goaltending, Maybe you talk with Alex. Maybe you look at Alex Tuck. You got to do something there because you definitely got to bolster up that center core. Your center cores are your most pivotal part of your team. And I love Chandler Stevenson. I think he's good. I think he could be a very solid
Yeah,
third line guy
ultimately
there,
that's what he is. Really, he just does a really
right?
good. He
He
does a really good.
plays,
He's a very smart player and knows his limitations, and plays well with Stone and Pacioretty. That's all.
yeah, plays amazing with Pacioretty and Stone. So maybe you don't go after, maybe you just bolster it up and just find another good centerman to play on that third line to maybe, if need be, play on that first
So
line
at
if you
least
need
have
to.
depth. We just talked about a guy that might
Yeah,
work out really well there. Perot. He can play in the middle. He can play all
Moreau.
over the lineup. That would be another guy, a guy that might be able to work out for them. Anyways, we're
I,
past break here.
yep.
We got to go for our
Mm-hmm.
break. Everybody, it's doggy time. And we'll be back in about 3, 4 minutes. Um, I got to turn off our sources here. And we'll be back in a couple minutes. We'll be taking more of your picks. We'll probably do some Seattle expansion. I'm getting a feeling like whatever you want to think about it over the break, what's on your mind to talk about, and we'll talk about whatever the heck you want because there's no rules here in Pearl of Wisdom Industries, you know. Okay, see you in a bit.
Greetings. This is Steel Flyers from the Steel Flyers All Sports Network, and we have two very special guests. We are delighted to be joined by Tracy Musser and Nicole Howard from the Canine Country Club Resorts. Tracy and Nicole are both managers for CCC Resorts and work at the Windsor or at the club, one of two locations both in Manheim, Pennsylvania. Congratulations on your 30th year anniversary of being in business. Let me start off by saying this. Steel Flyer stands behind this company 100%. Taking care of Steel Flyer's furry friend for the last 2 years now, and they are a one-stop shop for everything your furry friend needs. In fact, let's find out what our friends at CCC Resorts offer. Nicole, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Doing great, thank you. What are some of the great boarding services that you guys offer, and what do we have to do in order to get our furry friends taken care of when we are unable to travel with them?
Well, we like to bring everybody in for a tour first. That way they can see the behind the scenes, they can see where they stay, they can see where they play, and then we explain all of the fun things that we can add on to their reservation, whether it be one of our packages, either a nature walk, a ball time, or even a cuddle time.
Oh, wow, that sounds great. Boy, it sure sounds like a resort to me. So how are you today, Tracy?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Tracy, tell me, is it true that you guys have both an indoor and an outdoor pool at the Windsor location?
It is true. We've got one of each, so we're able to offer year-round swimming. The indoor pool is a great option for dogs who are swimming for therapy or rehab. It's got that sloped entry so they can wade into the water. Our outdoor pool is a little bit larger and it's 4 foot deep the whole way across. And both of them are saltwater pools, so it's really easy on the dog's skin and coat.
Wow, that's very awesome. So then during the summer months, you have a much deeper pool outside and then a sloped entry shallow pool indoors for the dogs. Tracy, tell the folks how we can get some pool time.
Well, the first thing everyone does is come for an intro swim. We use that time to make sure the dog is comfortable in the water. We make sure they know how to get out of the pool safely, and we go over all the pool rules and etiquette with the clients as well. After that, they're able to schedule private appointments where they have the pool to themselves, or they can invite friends and have a whole group swim going on.
So after a dip in the pool, then it would have to be off to the groomers, right? I mean, our furry friends cannot go out looking their best. Nicole, what are some of the great services your top-notch groomers provide?
Our groomers, they specialize in full service grooms. We can do the basics, whether it be just a bath and a brush out or a blowout. Or for the extra pampered pooches, we can do nail dremels, we can do deodorizing soaks, and also facials.
Wow, man, that sounds like a resort if you ask me. Tracy, I know one of the main programs here at CCC Resorts is the WAGS program. The Steel Flyers dog is enrolled in this program. So why don't you tell the folks what is involved in this and how they can get enrolled?
Yeah, the WAGS program is our primary daycare option at the Windsor. It's designed to be a structured program for people who are looking for a set routine for their dog. They all come on the same days each week, which allows them to have set friends, and we know exactly what's going on with each group. So we do a little bit more activities and we build more into their daily routine there. But we've got other daycare options as well for people looking for a little less commitment. We do an hourly care where you can drop them off and just pay by the hour. We also do a day stay option, which is great for the dogs that prefer human friends instead of making friends with other dogs. And then we have a traditional daycare option as well if you're looking for the occasional outing for your dog.
Wow, there you have it. A full service groomer, a daycare program, and an indoor and outdoor pool. What more could you ask for? Sure seems like CCC Resorts has everything covered. Remember, DOG, depend on God.
All right, we are back. Hopefully your doggies had fun there. You can send them out for
Ooh.
walks now. Yes, I could just imagine them all sitting around going, yes, yes, this would be. I don't even care if you're going on vacation. I want this, yo. What are you doing? They're probably staring at you like, okay, when are you leaving? Like, what are you doing to me here? Exactly. I
Yeah.
know. I don't even have a
Get
dog
out of
yet,
here,
but I'm
man.
going to get a dog because I want to go there. I want like I'm like the worst, man. I'll be doing TikToks all over the place of my dog getting a spa and all. I'm terrible that way. I'm social media all the heck. I'd be doing it for sure. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm doing it for sure. Okay, we're back. And if you're new, if you're in here, tell me we got
Hmm.
what, four people have picks in for Vegas versus Canadians. You have an opportunity to win fabulous prizes. My NHL Pearls of Wisdom necklace sent right to your door via the Pearlocopter by Melissa or what's this? Hot off the presses. Elliot Freeman, Montreal head coach. Yeah, we talked about that. He's not in there. Yeah,
Yeah.
we talked about that. He Ducharme won't be able to be in the. I don't think that really changes much for the game all that much necessarily. It can, I suppose. Most coaches, you put them in there, have their game, are able to distribute a game plan with the coach not there. We've noticed it several times before, but
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, plus you got I think they were talking about Luke Robertson and how he's had some experience coaching before as well. So, and usually you just pass that plan along to the other guy. I mean, they did it last year without Claude Julien for a bit there. So, I think Montreal Canadiens could still probably play about the same game. It's going to be a big loss, but I don't think it's going to be that big of a
I
one.
love this. This is what I love. This is what I love about this channel. And maybe we don't get all the people in the land coming here all the time or whatever, but we are hockey geeks here, okay? So if you're a hockey geek, this is the place for you.
Hmm.
I'm actually thinking about putting that in the title so people know what they get into when they get in here. And you know you're a hockey geek when you think for a whole 3 minutes while we're doing the commercial as you're watching it intently and imagining your dog there uh, that and when it's over and we say think of some things to talk about when we come back and CL comes up with I think Corey Schneider gets a chance somewhere. Only a hockey geek would think that. That is what I'm talking about right there. And I would whatever Corey Schneider went through some serious injury issues and all that stuff like that. I thought I'm really rooting for that guy to
Hmm.
come back because what happened in Vancouver there when he got traded away uh, back in the day after Luongo, and I think they got Horvat for him, which turns out to be a fantastic thing. But he handled it very well, and he got a bad rap. Like as far as I'm concerned, he's kind of got his bad rap his whole career. He was stuck behind Luongo, gets that, goes to New Jersey where he gets his chance, and then he gets injured, busted up, and now he's still trying to make a go of it. Whether he gets a chance somewhere, I'm sure somebody's going to be there to give
I
him a chance.
Well, the Islanders did give him a contract there. He was playing with the AHL Bridgeport Sound Tigers, but he only played for 2 games, and he let in 8 goals in those 2 games, and only made 43 saves. So I don't think Corey Schneider will ever get a chance ever again. Sadly, I loved Schneider when he came into the league. I was a big fan of him. He was great with the Canucks. He had like a 936 save percentage in 33 games played, 20-8 back in 2012. The guy was a stud. He should have stayed there in Vancouver, but they did get Bo Horvat anyways, so it's not that big of a deal. Schneider did do really well there in New Jersey as well, but he played a lot of games. He played a ton there for New Jersey, and then injuries started riddling him up, and New Jersey started going down the barrel, and it's just like, what's the point of playing there when the team is so bad and he's 35 years old? I don't know if he's
Yeah,
going to be able to make a
I'm just saying
comeback.
I'd be rooting for him, but yeah, I do find it highly unlikely.
I would be rooting for him too if he's like, oh yeah, I want to make a comeback because some team signed him. I'm like, yeah,
Yeah,
go for it, buddy.
yeah.
Give it a try again. But I just think he has too many injuries. I think it's just his career's done. Sadly, he got his big payday and now he's gonna be moving on with his life most likely because I just don't think anyone's just going to give him that job to be that backup anymore. He's old. He's not like he's sort of washed up, and I think it's mostly
Yeah.
because of the injuries that has rushed his early retirement most likely.
Yeah. Although we did talk a lot about the Leafs, I haven't seen hockey all day, all night for a long time. So that's a great question. And do you see the Leafs moving on for Morgan Riley? I don't know why they would have to replace him with somebody as good. The only thing I can see that I know he's going to be asking for a lot of money on the market here in the next little while. They got to re-sign him and all that. I think that if they did, they would have to go get like a Dougie Hamilton or something like that, and maybe fill out their roster with Riley with what they can get with Riley. Which I don't know what that would be because again with Toronto, it's just forever going to be the cap problems, right?
Yep. Yeah, and that's the problem with buying all your players and paying them so much money. And then Morgan Riley is like, oh, I'm playing really
Yeah,
good too, though. Like, I should deserve Marner or Matthews type of money. Even though Riley shouldn't, he's a great offensive defenseman. I give it to him. Great offensive defenseman. You ask him to play defense, he's not there. That's why he has to be playing alongside of someone like a Brody or a Muzzin, because he's a great offensive defenseman, but not as great defensively. He's gonna ask for a big payday. That's the thing. Morgan Riley is a really good offensive defenseman and is really good at what he does. He's a good top tier defenseman for that Toronto Maple Leafs team, and you would have to find someone to replace him, like a Dougie Hamilton, and to find someone that would be very hard to do. So I don't know. Morgan Riley definitely wants a payday, but he's definitely not going to get it there in
you
Toronto because they just
you
don't got the
think
salary cap.
okay? Wait, he says that they have money to pay Hamilton. I'm assuming that's trading away a whole bunch of stuff. Morgan Riley's going to get 8 probably, right? You think somewhere if he goes on maybe 9,
Maybe 9,
8 or 9
maybe
on the
9.
open market. You figure? Yeah, probably.
Maybe 9. Yeah, I would say 9, maybe 9.5, but maybe even a bit less. But around that area, $8 to $9 million probably for Morgan Riley. And same with Dougie Hamilton. There's no way Toronto's getting Dougie Hamilton unless you want to have nothing in your forward core. We were just talking about it a while ago. That you have 11.75 million dollars coming into this upcoming offseason with no third liners and fourth liners but for Spence and Robertson and Engvall. That's it. That's all you
Yeah.
guys have for the depth. You guys don't have enough for
Well,
Dougie
they do
Hamilton.
if they
There's
don't
no
do anything
way,
about that depth. If they don't do
unless,
anything about that depth,
yeah,
and then getting Hamilton's kind of
you make your defensive core real good,
I
and then
think
everything
if you're
else
going to
is.
take Hamilton, they would have to trade Riley, and maybe that isn't a bad. Put him out there, see what you can get for him, and maybe you can get some rocking back. Something rocking back that you could take Hamilton and fill out that roster with some really good guys. But I think the more likely scenario is kind of what we were talking about going to find some really good cheap fixes to build the depth because their top 6 is fantastic, right? they're top. You know, those guys are fantastic. If they could just get some pros, Beninos, guys like that that can fill in and fill a lot of different roles. That's the thing. You want utility guys. They can put up a little bit of offense. They play well defensively. They have some. You know, Benino to me is one of the most underrated guys out there. Has been for a very long time. So if you could get him, I don't know what somebody's going to throw at him, but that'll be interesting what they can get, how much he's going to cost, because I think there is a lot of teams out there that understand the value of a Benino. So
Okay, so Leafs fan, so you're saying that you would let go of Hyman and Brody just to bring in Hamilton. That's not doing anything for your team. Brody is really good defensively. You're practically just you're swapping them out. Hamilton's better than Brody. I'll give you that. Hamilton is better than Brody, but it's a dumb thing to think about. And I hate these hometown discounts about going to the Leafs. No one's gonna go to the Leafs for a hometown
no,
discount. No one. When has it ever happened? When has anyone, but for Joe Thornton, when has anyone taken a
I
hometown
don't
discount
think
to go
Hamilton
to
in
play in Toronto?
particular would take a hometown discount in that situation.
No, he
Yeah.
wants the money. He just came off a $5 million contract. Do you think he wants another one? No, he
Yeah,
probably
for
wants to
sure.
get
I
paid.
think he would. And there's going to be so many people offering him contracts out there that it's going to be really hard. I don't know what he's going to get, but it appears that he's asking for 9. In this cap world, maybe he doesn't get what he asked for, maybe, but I think there's probably,
Well,
like, you look at these playoffs now, so we'll go back to these playoffs now. Uh, Look at the defensemen that are on, like, defense
and
heaviness of all of these teams. The
mm-hmm.
fact of the matter is, guys like Hamilton are guys that are you want in your lineup to win cups.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And Lauren, yes, they got Spencer to a discount, and I know you're joking, but yeah, Spencer is a great at
I
league
think
minimum.
he's
That's where
fantastic, and that
that's
is a hometown discount, no doubt about that. So that's
yes,
a
that
good
is
one.
a hometown discount. But it's already an older guy, so either way, even if he was to go to another place, he would only probably take up about a mil going to another place if he were to go to another one. If he were to go back to Ottawa or wherever, he'd probably take about near the same, I
Yeah,
feel.
let's continue with the free agent talk. This is fun, especially.
Hamilton to
I don't think
Colorado?
Colorado needs him. Uh,
Well, if they lose Graves, then maybe, but they don't have the money. If they sign back Landeskog, that takes up $7 million of your dollars, and then you also have McCarr to sign, and then McKinnon coming up, and you just don't want to be doing. You don't want to be sticking yourself to somebody. You already have Taves, you already have Girard, you already have McCarr. You don't need Hamilton. I mean,
oh,
unless you want to make that team
Bo and
ultimately
Byram.
stacked. And yeah, then you also got yeah. I mean, I could see Hamilton going to teams that have a lot of salary cap that need a defenseman. I could see him go back to Carolina. I
I
could
don't.
see that. Rangers could be a possibility if they don't go after Eichel. The Wild if they lose Dumpa in
Oh,
the expansion.
that would be
The
interesting. The
Jets.
Jets would be awesome. But the thing is, with the Jets, if it's true and it gets out there in the league that about these sort of things, that he is a different way kind of guy of thinking and stuff like that. Uh, they don't seem to do well with that. The Jets are like you have to try to sort of think a certain way. He's a different dude. I think the guy that I think the team that's going to be heavy after him, and plus many other guys, is the LA Kings. I think he would go really well with the LA Kings. Um, I'd have to look at where he would sit there, but they've got some young guys there already. But if they're really talking like they're talking that it's over and they're going to start going for it right now. First of all, LA is the type of place that has no problems with people that think differently. He would work out well that way, and I think they could really use him. He could be there for quite a while,
The
and I think they could really use him.
I think the one problem is do you really want to lock up a lot of money into both Dougie Hamilton and Drew Doughty into the future? Like that's the biggest thing I think they got to think about is because Drew Doughty's a lot of money and that contract's going to hurt him for a long time to come. So we'll have to see. But I do think Dougie Hamilton would be perfect for that defensive core there in LA. That would make them a lethal team. Just their offense. I mean, just imagine if LA were to both get Eichel and Dougie Hamilton this free agents or
Oh,
at this offseason. I mean, that would be crazy.
that would be insane. Yeah, and I guess we can always talk about that. It's really hard to put a value to what Eichel's going to get here now, with him being with the injury and all that. Whoever gets him, I think if I'm Buffalo, if you want to trade for Eichel now, you need to make sure that your doctors think he's going to be okay because we're trading you a healthy Eichel. So you have to look at it
Hmm.
as Eichel is going to be very healthy, and everything's going to work out well. So you better talk to your doctors and make sure they think that's going to be the case. And for a healthy Eichel, you got to be looking at Turcotte, Kaliev, first.
Well, even for LA, you could even go a little like with Turcotte and Byfield. That's you look at every single other team. I mean, but for the Rangers could even offer Capo
Yeah,
Caco
yeah.
and stuff like that. The one trade we were talking about this morning or before we jumped on the show was Heidel, Keandre Miller, and Kravtsov and 3 first-round picks, and we thought that deal was reasonable because you look at it, you know, he's going to be around his second line guy most likely. Then Miller probably going to be a top four guy, maybe even a top two guy in the future. Um, but most likely top four. And then Kravtsov, who's been in and out, has some good potential. And then 3 first-round picks, which if your team ends up being good, then those picks are going to be nothing. So you look at that base of that trade. That's a horrible trade. The Buffalo Sabres would probably need more. And that's why I think LA is so perfect because you could either trade them Turcotte or Byfield. And then you could add in a couple more pieces, but that would be almost even, I think, because Byfield is going to be a pretty good forward. Same with Turcotte. I think LA has the best chances at getting Eichel just because of the amount of potential that they have and the amount of picks and just everything that the Kings have. They have a distinct advantage over everyone. And same with the Rangers if they were to trade away Capo Caco
Yeah,
or
that would be
Laffy.
that's the two teams that come to mind. Also, they're the kind of teams that go like for the names like that as well. But we are, as we already mentioned, like I think Columbus would be throwing everything they can at it. I don't think they have enough though. I honestly think Philadelphia will probably be in there throwing as much as they can at it, but I don't think they're going to have enough. And of course, Buffalo
Hmm.
will be using all of these teams as a leverage to get as much as they can. And ultimately, I think LA is probably the team that is most set up for that kind of a trade and will end up getting them in the long run if they're that as bullish as I hear um, about doing so.
Hmm.
Who should? Okay, first of all, okay. Once we get to 2:30, remind me. I'm going to do it as a video. The rest of the show is a video, so I'm going to do a little intro on
Okay,
it.
perfect.
Uh, a few things here. Ottawa is not a contender. Maybe not, but maybe a playoff team. Maybe. Like,
You give them like another year or like this year they were close. They were red hot near the end. You give them this year and then next year, this team could be a playoff team.
I don't.
You think about it, but I don't think. I think you got to play it patient this one last year because you still got to get some sort of contracts. I mean, they don't even really have that many bad contracts. The only bad contracts that they got on the team is Matt Murray and Nikita Zaitsev. But that top pair of Dougie Hamilton, Thomas Chabot, whoo wee, that would be nasty. And Leafs fan, no way he's going to LA. I wouldn't say it's stupid. I wouldn't say it is a realistic thought that Eichel could totally be going to LA. It would make more sense for him to go to LA because that's the Western Conference, and Buffalo most likely doesn't want to keep Eichel in the Eastern Conference. You wouldn't like you're gonna see if there's a trade that happens with Eichel, will most likely will be in the West. It won't probably be with the Rangers. The best likelihood it will be LA. They have the most salary cap. Are close to being a contender, right? They're in a crappy Pacific Division where they could easily take a spot up easily, right? Like the two best teams I would have to say is Vegas and maybe Edmonton if they don't screw up this offseason. And then maybe Calgary, Vancouver. Right? LA could easily take that third spot, especially if they get
Yeah.
Jack Eichel. And they have
Hockey
the
All Day
prospects to
says
do
there's
it.
no way they're going to LA, but he didn't come back to why that would be. Maybe he's got a good point. I don't know. Send it off to me. But I think LA's a lot better than people realize. They've got their prospects are moving up super fast. They've
Plus, they got a
they
great
got
goalie in Pearson
Pearson.
as well.
The only reason why they didn't really do, I think, as well as they could have did last season, is they're a young team and they're playing in a compact season. Um, so
Yeah.
give them like an 82 game schedule where they don't have to, and they've all been through it now a little bit. Not to mention, you got Turcotte will probably play regular. You got Byfield who could be ready here right away.
Mm.
One of those guys is going to be in the trade, mind you. But still, you got Byfield coming up. They got lots of money to get free agents, even if they not if they get Eichel, maybe not as much, but
Well, even if they get Eichel, they would even if they were to trade for Eichel, they would probably have to trade some salary cap out, of course. But you maybe dump off. Yeah, I think they have like $22 million. I think something like that. So they have $12 million left to fill in the rest of the team, and the team is already filled up, right? You have Afalio who's locked up. You have Kopitar. Brown's going to be a free agent next year, so you get that 5.8 back. I mean, this team is prime real estate, I think, for Jack Eichel. Yeah, 20 million. You get Jack Eichel. You have $10 million left going into next season. You kind and you slowly build up from there.
yeah. And looking at it, like the only thing that might be difficult is when I look at this, I don't see too many teams that are going to be able to compete too much with LA. Like it's just going to get to a certain point where teams are just going to fall off. They might end up getting them for a price that is pretty reasonable. Like I wouldn't doubt that the Calgary Flames are going to call, but what are they going to give? They got nothing unless you want to just like say we're building around Eichel for the long term. And that's going to be the case for a lot of teams. Like the Columbus Blue Jackets would probably to like be salivating over them, but they just don't have the players to give back. And it also depends on what Buffalo really wants to do here. If they're making, if they're going to try to, do what the Pagulas probably are going to say, is they still want to be competitive with this trade. There might be some teams that might be able to do that are looking at going into a rebuild and they think, you know what, first round pick, we're going to get Eichel. That is what we're looking for with our first round pick.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking to get an Eichel. So why not give up a whole bunch of crap, a whole bunch of picks and stuff like this for the one kind of guy that we're looking for in the long run? But they'll give up pretty much their whole team, and they won't be relevant for like the next 5-6 years. And then poor Eichel,
Mm-hmm.
you know. Yeah. So that's okay. I said I was going to do the rest of this
The
as a
video.
video. Yeah. So let me get in. Let me get in the chat here, and I'm going to do this. Hello, everybody. This is the Pearl of Wisdom show. We're doing this live right now as we speak. We have Peyton the
Mm-hmm.
Prize in here from Peyton on the radio. You can go check his channel. He also he does a it's a sports desk show that's going out tonight.
Mm-hmm.
You want to check that out on the Steel Flyers and Steel Flyers Network. This is what we do 5 days a week from Monday to Friday, and it's Friday today. We're going to record this. We're making it a video for the next half hour. You're going to see the kind of content that you get when we do this show. It's a lot of fun. We were just talking about Eichel, so we're going to continue talking about that and whatever else anybody wants to talk about in the chat. We also do sports pick. We do NHL picks, which we already did, and all of that sort of frolic. So here we go. Back to Eichel. I agree. We just talked about it now. I think LA is the most likely spot for him, and the more I look at it, I just can't see. We had one guy. Okay, LA has a young core coming up, so getting Jack Eichel at 10 million for 5 years. Okay, well they have a young core coming up, right? But of that young core, um, let's just dissect LA and where they are right now as a team. They've got
Yeah,
let's
they
go.
got so much like good talent there in LA too. That's the thing that like I wouldn't be saying that LA would be a like they're the reason why I'm saying that they're a prime spot is because they legit are. You could do a big trade with Buffalo, and they will still have prospects left over from that trade, right? You're going to be trading one of Byfield or Turcotte, and then you're still going to have one of those guys left. And then you still have Rasmus Kupara, Kiliev, Madden, Fabio, Akil Thomas, Kale Clegg, Sean Dursey, who's been looking not that bad. The amount of prospects that this LA team has is nuts. And the amount of prospects that are already having NHL experience is nuts. If they get Jack Eichel, this team would be a step above. And they would be just a couple players away from being a real deadly team.
And like you said, they can add. They've got Jared Dolan Anderson as well, who I really like. He's only 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Started putting up some points last year. The question is what are they going to lose in the package? I think Turcotte would definitely. I think they're going to hold on to Byfield tight. I think Turcotte might be a guy that they'd be looking at being able to let go of. He's going to be a two-way guy, probably like a middle number one center somewhere around there.
Mm-hmm.
And they could afford to do that in this because they're getting Eichel. So down the road,
I would also add Velarde as well.
oh yeah,
Give Buffalo some NHL experience. Velarde would be perfect for that. You give him some NHL experience. I mean, probably not a Falio because he wasn't terribly bad, but maybe even if they need some more NHL experience, I would even throw in a Falio into the trade
oh yeah. I have
to maybe clear up some cap
I
space.
have follow. Yeah, I mean I'm not really. He'd be okay. He'd be kind of a throw-in. Not to mention he's making 4 million, so
Hmm.
that's just more cap space for them to add a much more of a shooter. Because Alex Iafallo is not supposed to be a number one center.
No,
So all they
no,
really do then, if they do this trade, let's say you go Villard, like that's a lot of center depth you're losing, but uh,
you're getting
you're
Eichel,
getting
and
Eichel.
you still have well.
Turcotte
If you trade
Filardi,
away,
Turcotte Filardi,
yeah,
say go down and say Kaliev. I mean, Kaliev is
I
probably their best
I
winger
I think.
prospect, but
I think you would want to keep Kiliev. Maybe trade away one of your defensive prospects and then load up on first. Maybe even think about trading Rasmus Kupara as well.
yeah,
He's another centerman because they do have a lot of centermans. Like they have Tyler Madden, they got Rasmus Kupara. I would like to keep Kiliev because he's a good shooter, and especially if he could play alongside a Jack Eichel, and he's an American, and if they could play on Olympic teams and just honestly form a bond, that would be something I would look for because they got a lot of good centermans coming up the future pipeline there for the LA Kings that I think they could just replenish it easily if they were able to do like one of these big trades like this.
well, I'd be cool with if I'm Buffalo. If you're gonna have Turcotte, I like Filardi a lot. By the way, I really do like Filardi. He had a down
Hmm.
year last year, but he's only 21, 6'2", 185. He can play the wing as well. I think he's a better winger. I don't know why they keep on playing him center, but you Turcotte Filardi and I don't know their defensive prospects. I'm not really sure about.
No.
Maybe Vladimir Ketchov or something like that. He's kind of small. Yeah, I would like a defensive prospect, but they're not super deep in that. Maybe a Dursey and then first round picks like this year, next year, first round picks. Nobody's going to beat that package. Is all I'm saying. They may not have
Hmm.
to give all that up because people have already bowed out before they have to give up the first. that really is probably the best package you're going to find. I've looked at this over and over again in other teams, and I just don't see any team coming up with that package. And they're
Could
still okay if they do
could
that
we
deal.
see the Vegas Golden Knights
Oh,
do
I'm sure they would be in
do
there.
something?
I'm sure they would be in there trying to do something.
Like, I think, of course, you'd have to trade away Tuck. You would also have to get rid of one of your goalies, maybe even one of your top guys. But you take away Riley Smith, Alex Tuck, because that'd make you have enough salary cap to kind of build up the rest of the team. Well, to pick up Jack Eichel, it wouldn't make sense for the Vegas Golden Knights. They would probably love to have Jack Eichel. They would love to have Jack Eichel. Just the money thing for them, I don't think would make sense. But they could trade away Krebs. They got Cody Glass. They got lots of first round picks and just draft picks in general. Vegas could be a team as well that could totally go after Jack
All
Eichel.
I know is if they were like, okay, let's say Buffalo is looking more about being relevant right now. That might be the team to look at, I
Yeah.
guess, because you could get some players that could play for you right now. Uh, I
Well,
would want
even
basically for
then,
me, I would want Alex Tuck back, and if you're not willing to give Alex Tuck back, then don't. I would probably hang up the
well,
phone.
here's my
I
thought
want Tuck
process
for
on
sure.
thinking if I were to pick up Riley Smith and help the Vegas Golden Knights clear some cap, I would be thinking of, okay, I could pick up Riley Smith here and Alex Tuck. And then I could flip Riley Smith because he only has 1 year left. Half retain that. $2.5 million for Riley Smith to some other team would be a crazy good deal and would probably give you another first round pick to bolster up your squad. And then you also think about Tuck. 4.75 for Alex Tuck is a great deal. Great deal. And then you may be thinking about maybe later on flipping him for some picks. You could just mass populate on picks. You could get a ton of picks. You probably get 2 to 3 picks for the Eichel deal. And then once you trade away Smith and Tuck, you could probably get another first, maybe two firsts from both of them. That'd be crazy good if you were able to get that type of return. And especially if you were to have retained on Riley Smith's contract for that 1 year, that'd be really good, I think.
Yeah, it wouldn't be bad. I still like the LA deal better, but
Oh, I still like the LA deal better. I think that benefits the Buffalo Sabres better for their future. With Vegas, it gives them a lot of picks that might not be as good as a Byfield or a Turcotte or a Velarde would be coming to your team.
yeah, but the first round picks for LA, if LA, I don't think I don't I think part of the reason why a lot of some people say that LA would not be a good because they're young and all that stuff like that. I think a lot of people don't realize how like they're right on the cusp. They're right on the cusp right now. But also how they will be if they got Eichel, they would be fan. I don't think people appreciate how good Eichel really is. That's
Hmm.
really what it comes down to.
No, no one does. No one really does know how good Jack Eichel is. He is a great player. He plays great defensively too. And that's the thing. This guy is a guy who could produce a lot of points for you, but is also a great two-way forward. He had a great season defensively this year before he got cut off with that huge injury. He wasn't finishing as well, but I mean, most of the team wasn't scoring. Look at what Taylor Hall did. Taylor Hall went from being a guy that everyone was hating to Boston, and he was playing great. Jack Eichel is a guy that was right behind McDavid, and people were highly talking about him and was talking about this guy fixing Buffalo.
Uh,
This is a guy that deserves 3 first round picks and practically your entire team to be traded for Jack
yeah,
Eichel because he is worth that damn much. It is very hard to get that first overall selection and to get a type of player like Jack
yeah.
Eichel. It is really hard to
This
do
is
that.
much more to do with the fact that Buffalo dropped the ball so hard with Eichel than
Hmm.
what he is as a player. I think honestly, if you put him on a really really good line, I would not be surprised if Eichel gets 120 points in a season. I would not be surprised at all. If you were to put him on
No.
with some super strong wingers, I wouldn't. I'd put him up there with McKinnon. He's more of a goal scorer, but he's a fantastic goal scorer. Like he carried that Buffalo team so many times, and they just had nothing. They had nothing. He had no support at all. You just all you had to do is take out Eichel, and you took out the Buffalo Sabres for years. I'm not surprised at all that he finally just said, "Yeah, I want out." And people, I think, are putting that on him to say that he's some sort of cancer in the room or something like that. I don't care. I don't know if it matters. I don't know who you are. I don't know if it matters who it would have been in the situation that he's in right now. That everything that's happened in that organization over time, that wouldn't be finally saying, you know what, I'm fed up.
Hmm. Yeah, it's time for there's so many trades that can happen. It's it's even baffling me sometimes. I take a look at some of the trade requests sometimes, and you'll see like one first round pick and it's three bums from that team, and I'm like, how do you think this is worth Jack Eichel? I know you guys think he's a cancer and this and that, but Jack Eichel, he's in a place where they're losing a ton. I remember when the Edmonton Oilers were losing a ton, and I remember Taylor Hall is a cancer, Nuge is a cancer, Eberle's a cancer, just because we were losing a lot of games. And that will happen, especially with Buffalo, where the media is going to be a bit harder on Buffalo because they are legit a dumpster fire there. And yes, they might be a little bit hard on their superstar when it might not even be his fault. It might just be the entire team and the Pagulas. uh, it's I hope Jack Eichel could either get out of there or the Buffalo Sabres can fix themselves and actually have some success there. That's what I'm really hoping. Because no matter which way you look at it, if they were able to trade away Jack Eichel, they're never going to win this trade. They never are. There's never going to be an even trade for Jack
The
Eichel.
only the only
There's,
way they win the trade is if they hit the jackpot with one of those picks.
I think, yeah, unless they hit the jackpot or they get Alex Turcotte from LA
If they get Alex,
or Byfield.
or if they get Byfield, even then I don't think Turcotte's never going to be what Eichel
No,
is. Never.
they're never going to be. They're never going to be the level that Jack Eichel
No.
brings, and that's why I would never trade away Jack Eichel.
But if it got
I would try to make this man happy, but if he's upset, then
no.
you gotta move
Trade
on.
Jack Eichel for Mitch Marner. There's been a lot. It just doesn't make sense for Toronto. They just have Tavares and Matthews.
It's another centerman.
Yeah,
It's another centerman. You guys, I was hearing Edmonton too. Like people were talking about Edmonton as well, maybe being kind of a target there. I wouldn't. I mean, I would love Jack Eichel, but that would just make it so heavy up top, and in the depth would just be nothing. Like I wouldn't mind Jack Eichel, but it's definitely not going to be the greatest.
yeah. There's no way that Buffalo would retain 50% of Eichel's contract. You'd have to trade what you just said. Period. There's no retaining the salary. Nietzsche's, Jarvis, Trocheck's meh, helps out for now. But Nietzsche's and Jarvis, yeah, I love those guys. They're great. Yeah, they look like they're going to be fantastic.
Well, Carolina has the salary cap to swallow Eichel's contract in, so I don't know why you guys. I mean, 50% because you only have to pay him $5 million, but you could just swallow that contract in easily. You have $29 million coming into this offseason. You could easily
Yeah.
swallow it if you were to make a deal for Jack
They,
Eichel. Carolina could be another team
I
as
thought
well.
about them. They have an internal cap though. That's the thing, right? Because they don't have the.
Yes, and they do got to sign Savech and they got to get a defenseman already as well. So that'd be pretty hard. Buffalo would definitely say no to that,
No,
Lauren.
they're going to say no to the retained salary.
What
I think I think
once you bring in the fact that it's already 50% retained, they're hanging up the phone. They're like, "Hey, we're thinking Eichel 50% for." They're hanging up right after you say 50%. Adams is hanging up the
yeah.
phone
Just
because
imagine if they did retain what they could get back. Whoo, man, that actually might
oh,
not be a bad idea. Lessen your cap. If it wasn't Buffalo that already went through 10 years of hell, okay. If it was a team that was just like starting a rebuild, retain 50%
mhm.
because you're not going to need to hit the cap for the next 5 years anyways, and then see who's going to be out there and what you'll get for them. You could get first round picks for the next decade probably. Like it
Yeah,
would be like crazy, but yeah, there's no way that they're going to retain. Uh, the,
Kyle Okposo getting trade with Jack Eichel. That could be a
yeah,
possibility, but I mean that means more. I mean, actually, that would be less if they were to package Okposo. That would be less for the other team. But if you're picking up Eichel, most likely you're trying for a playoff spot and don't want to take in $16 million
Yeah.
worth of players. That would be pretty hard to swallow. Only a few teams, even LA, wouldn't be able to do that if Okposo was part of the
Yeah.
deal. It would be
I
pretty
think
hard.
anybody that's trading them there doesn't want to take dead cap back. It's just no way. I can't see it. Anybody that was trying to trade him, yeah, doesn't want to take dead cap back. It would
No,
lessen what they would have to give up because you take
it would be.
no doubt about that. And I think Buffalo will just have to will live through that contract rather than taking less in this deal.
I mean, they only got 2 years left, so I mean, it's not that far away. Especially if you are trading away Jack Eichel, you're gonna need to get to the salary cap floor. You need to, and Okpoz is gonna help you get to that roof, right? You need to get there, especially if you're trading away $10 million of Jack Eichel. Okpozo wouldn't be a bad keep for
Yeah,
that team.
Pozo went to Buffalo because he's friends with them. That's the reason why they. That was part of the reason why they got
Oh yeah.
Okpozo. Like him and Eichel have been friends for a really long time, and talk about bad contract. Woo! New York Islanders certainly. But then that was funny when that deal happened. They didn't take. They let Okpozo go for $6 million a year, and then went and gave it to Ladd. So one
Oh Lord.
that was bad.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, all right, Okpozo, you're asking for too much money. Oh, hey, Andrew Ladd, how's it going,
We got
buddy?
this.
Here's the same
Yeah, we got
money.
this fresh $6 million. What are we gonna do with it? We give it to Ladd.
Yeah, basically the same player, but older and
Yeah,
crashed fast.
and injured. That was Garth Snow. That was
Yeah.
Garth Snow that did that.
Oh, Mr. Garsnow,
Did that back.
the legend.
Yeah, so that would suck for Okpozo because Okpozo's stuck in Buffalo. Nobody's taking that contract, and now his friend Eichel's on his way out as well. So
Oh, one other team we haven't talked about is the Kraken with
yeah,
Eichel.
they'd have to give up first for days, right?
Yeah, they would have to give up first for days because they don't have a lot of prospects unless they were to, get a lot of players from the expansion draft. But I don't think I don't think Buffalo really wants to take NHL ready players right now unless they are trying to go for the playoffs, but they're not ready yet. And yes, yeah, Reichel. Maybe what they could do if they were to add Okpozo into the trade is retain a little bit of Okpozo's salary cap. Would you take half retain Okpozo and Eichel?
Uh, Even then, it just doesn't seem to make sense to me to take in Okpozo for any reason because
No.
it just doesn't make any sense. I guess if on his lower line, I mean, if you wanted to have a guy on the fourth line or whatever, yeah, it's possible they could retain it to have him move on. I guess I think and it sort of makes some sense because the Buffalo Sabres are really trying to get rid of all the memories. They're trying to get rid of all the memories. So all the players that have gone through all the losses, and I get it. It's a really good idea to do now. You got to get rid of all
Mhm.
the history of the last 10 years. You need to get some fresh players in that have a new focus, and all the old yamble is gone, or at least has gone as much as you possibly can. So in which case, Reinhardt, uh, Eichel, like anybody that's been there for really a long time is going to be traded away this summer
Mhm.
for sure.
Oh yeah. Seattle trades their
Except for
first for
Jeff
this year to
Skinner.
Buffalo.
Except for Jeff Skinner. Jeff Skinner is prison. Jeff Skinner gave himself a $9 million a year prison to live in.
Oh yeah. Dude, he's gonna be enjoying the off season, but once he starts stepping into that Buffalo Sabres uniform, it's gonna be hell.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if I don't see Seattle. I don't even see Buffalo doing this either, trading a first for this year to Buffalo for a first next year of Buffalo. I don't think they would be doing that because Buffalo's tanking next year as well. They I could see Seattle might tank for right, but depends on what type of team they're going to be building too.
Seattle, I think Seattle's going to be in the. I really think. Now we had Seattle up here as a conversation. For the last 10 minutes, let's talk about kind of where Seattle likely will be going. I think I don't know if it'll be a tank, but they're not putting a team out there that's going to make the playoffs. I don't think. They could be. They could really surprise me here, but I just don't see I don't see Francis doing something like that in Seattle. I think the team that they're going to put out
Let's
there
see.
is going to be like in the close to the bottom of the league.
When I remember when Vegas came into the league, everyone was like, "Oh yeah, Vegas is gonna tank for picks and this and that." And then they actually did do that. They got a lot of picks. They just bolster up on the picks, and that's all they did, and that's what they focused on. And then they won, and they kept on winning, and they just kept on winning. I don't know if we're going to see the exact same thing with Seattle because, yes, it is, defensemen really only. There's not a lot of offense compared to, what Vegas had, where they had Neil and they had some really good selections up in the front. But you never really know. And that's the thing with Seattle and these expansion teams, what we've seen from Vegas and what we possibly could see from Seattle, especially if they get Rick Tocchet as their coach there in Seattle, from what the rumors have been kind of rumbling around, they could possibly be a playoff team. And especially in this weak Pacific Division that they're going to be in, I I could see them making it in, especially if they make some strong moves at free agency and get some nice offense to be added to the team. I could without a doubt see Seattle being in the playoffs, especially with the division that they're going to have to deal with in the Pacific.
Um, I think it would be incidental. I don't think it's what they're really
Mm-hmm.
necessarily going to be going for, but they
No,
could
no.
incidentally make the playoffs because it's such a weak division. But I think it'll be incidental if they do that. Uh, I'm putting a title here.
Oh, perfect.
I think wholly they're going to be using the leverage to pick up as many picks as they possibly can. It just makes
Mm-hmm.
sense to me, and Ron Francis is that kind of guy to build that way. And that's really the big thing for me is that taking Ron Francis. I admit I didn't think Vegas was going to go the direction that they went to, but looking, hindsight is 2020. I should have maybe thought that they would be a little more like that because of the market that they're in, that they really would be difficult for them to be bad for a lot for a period of time there.
Mm-hmm.
But in Seattle, it's not necessarily like that. They've got strong financial backing. They've got probably have a better opportunity to get people interested in the first 2 years on a rebuild. However, they're not coming out and saying anything right now like that either, are they? They're
Um, no. I was just looking over at Graham McPhee's kind of old history of the Vegas Golden Knights and taking a look at all the trades. I also don't think the Vegas Golden Knights are going to get or the Seattle Kraken is going to get as lucky as what Vegas did, because you take a look at a lot of these trades, like the Vegas and Florida, where they picked up Riley Smith and expansion draft considerations to Florida and a fourth round pick, and they also got Marshall that they picked from Florida. That set up their team. That set up the entire second line between Smith and Marchessault. Then you take a look at a little bit later on. The Islanders, they had some considerations being traded to them for a first round pick of Eric Branson, which ended up being Mark Stone. That Eric Branson pick went to Ottawa, and that ended up being Mark Stone for that team. Anaheim, more expansion draft considerations for Shea Theodore, who's now one of the best defensemen there for the Vegas Golden Knights. Alex Tuck they picked up from the Minnesota Wild for more draft considerations. Same with the Columbus Blue Jackets, another first round pick that ended up being Nick Suzuki's pick that traded for Max Pacioretty. Like, the entire expansion draft went perfectly for the Vegas Golden Knights. Now the problem is, can it go perfectly for the Seattle Kraken? Are GMs smarter than what happened last time? People are saying that they're going to be smarter this time, but are they? There's a lot of new GMs that have never dealt with the expansion draft before, so we'll have to see how well they do. I think Seattle is not going to get as lucky as what Vegas did, because everyone was running through Vegas basically, right? everyone was like, all right, yeah, we'll just do deals with Vegas. It's the easiest thing to do. But everyone was setting up Vegas for the future. And that's why Vegas is the top contender, because basically everyone handed them everything.
Eric Stahl going back to Minnesota this offseason? Probably,
And no,
probably not. Uh, Probably not.
probably not this year.
I don't think so. I don't know where he would go. Maybe Carolina could, use him as a fourth liner or something like that. He can go back with his brother. It'd be a good
Hmm.
story, something like that. But yeah, they got lucky in a sense, but they. I think honestly, what happened there was they threw off a lot of teams because I think most teams thought that they were going to rebuild through the draft.
That as
They were
well.
going to build through the draft, and they made it seem like that, and then kind of messed up general managers as like they kind of prepared for that, and then they started realizing, oh wait a second, they use their leverage as, no, we want to, we'll take this player or that player, we'll take the cap space off you. They went that way, like what they did with, for instance,
Yeah.
Florida. Okay, Florida had a line on Dodonov, right?
Hmm.
And they were obviously kind of, I think they were sort of tunnel vision on Dodonov. And they were saying, you know what, we'll take some cap space off from you. And these are the guys we want. And what did they get? Riley Smith and Marchessault. Wow. And so Florida was thinking Dodonov was kind of like almost like Panarin-ish. Of course, he didn't turn out that
Yeah,
way.
not.
He didn't turn out that way, and they were going to have to pay him this
Hmm.
much. Marchessault had come off one good season, and Riley Smith was always an undervalued two-way guy, and they said, okay, you know what, to get a possible star like that, we'll sacrifice these two players. They just did really good at their scouting. I don't know if it was lucky or not. Like what they did with Columbus getting Carlson, that had to be luck. There was no way they thought that Carlson was going to be that good. Really?
I didn't know.
I had no idea.
I didn't know. I had no idea he was going to be that good. I mean, he was young. He had. I mean, he was playing like, what was it, like bottom tier minutes there with Columbus, 25 points in 81 games. He was the best pick from Columbus, and then 78 points out of nowhere. He didn't show any signs of actually being that type of player either. That was the thing. Like when he was in Columbus in the AHL in 15 games, he had no points, none. And in the 2 years in Columbus, he really didn't produce very much either. And I think that's going to be the thing. If Seattle gets maybe the new William Karlsson, then without a doubt, I could see Kraken making it in. And I think that was the biggest thing with Vegas is like they noticed that their team's actually good midway through the season. I'm like, all right, let's try. We got tons of picks. We could legit trade for anyone we want right now. Right? Weren't they in the talks with Eric Carlson back in the day? Like when Eric Carlson
Yeah,
was on the market, there was talks about Eric Carlson coming to Vegas.
yeah,
I remember that. I remember they were picking up everyone. They wanted Mark Stone, and they get Pietrangelo this year. They came in with one thought of being a rebuilding team, and then they noticed that they're actually a good team, and they're like, let's go for it. Let's try. Let's try to win a cup right off the get go.
yeah.
And it's worked out. The fans there are really supportive of the Knights, and I think them winning right off the get go made it even easier for the Knights as well.
I gotta look back on it again, but I really think that they were trying to go for it right away, right from the get go. I do,
Maybe they
I
were.
do, because they picked a lot of players that were kind of surprising, uh, and then I think that was the whole plan to begin with. They were planning on picking up some picks, and they were going to be looking for guys to add to the lineup to get going, because I just think that market demanded it, and that was really
Maybe
what it
maybe
was.
they were phasing. Maybe they were phasing everyone too, because I remember there was a lot of talk about Vegas, just like, all right, yeah, we're gonna rebuild. We're gonna rebuild. Or not rebuild, but I guess just like draft really well. Draft really well. That was their biggest focus. I remember when they were coming into the league, that they were gonna draft really well, just stock up on picks and just play it smart. And then it was like a whole change of philosophy once they drafted their team and got the amount of picks that they did. It was insane the amount of picks that the Vegas Golden Knights had from all the teams. From first to fourths to fifths, just about everything that they had, they were bolstered up. Even nowadays, they still have tons of picks.
I think you're going to see
It's
that. I
insane.
think you're going to see Seattle even have more picks than even Vegas did, because I think they're going to be going hardcore on picks. Hardcore. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I really think that they're going to go hardcore on picks and try to build a dynasty there, and they just might do it. But that's our full 42, boys and girls. That's all we got today.
Hmm.
We'll see you on Monday, and we didn't even talk about the game on the weekend. The Islanders game.
Oh,
Get so into it. I love talking about this kind of stuff.
same.
Okay. We will see you Monday. I'll be on all the streams for, not all of them, but I'll try to get on streams for John's show. We'll remember to watch the Sports Desk programming. It's fantastic as well. And Peyton's
Hmm.
channel in general. Have a great day, everybody. Okay, bye.